Well, I'll kick off actually by flattering you, Chris, that actually the session was about homelessness, obviously, but the pressures and how people are responding to it, with a particular emphasis on the person. Hastings Council, obviously, were sort of cause celeb in the runways last year because it looked like you're at threat of bankruptcy. But actually, you're not, and you managed to not necessarily turn the tide, but get on with it. So I'm quite impressed by that. I wondered, if you want to encapsulate a bit about your approach, it'd be quite interesting.
Yeah, I think that's definitely what I wanted to get across. Is because of the partially, I think, because of the attention that we received, because of the real risk of bankruptcy and our ability to we've managed that well, but we're still under considerable threat. That risk never goes away. But I do think because of that attention, because we're able to articulate our case, we have been able to pull in some external funding. That's going to be a massive help. And what I wanted to get across in this session was that what that will enable us to do is to buy houses, develop houses ourselves, and that's what will solve our short-term financial situation, as well as put people in a much, much better place to live. The costs of us privately procuring temporary accommodation, £400, £500 a week, that costs to us. If we own that property, same household, cost neutral to us, and then we can manage that through the rental income we'll get. We can say to someone, that's to all intents and purposes, that's your home. Pets there, can be family there. You can, manage it in a very, very different way than that stereotypical temporary accommodation. And that's what I wanted to get across, that power of housing and what difference it will make to the situation.
Which is sort of the core of housing first, for example, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's really interesting. What you're saying, sorry, I'm kind of interviewing you as if it was from one of my studies, but it's absolutely logical. But with our work at Centre for Homelessness Impact, we work with various local authorities, and often it's, as I said in my work, the investor safe business case is really, really tricky.
Yep.
There's not the data, but then there's also the sales job. And I found, I suppose without you being under such extreme pressure, do you think it would have been possible to do it?
I think that's a really, really, really good question. I think no. I think that pressure got us a spotlight on us, which sometimes was uncomfortable, but certainly raised the profile of the issue. I think it helped to be able to speak to other local authorities, colleagues in the voluntary sector. I've come from the voluntary sector myself, so having that contact and to be able to give us sort of perspective about what others have done, what's working, what hasn't worked, has been really, really invaluable. And I guess in your role, you see that all the time, and that ability to be able to say, I've seen a similar issue here. That's the solution that's worked, and then being able to do that's been massively helpful. But you're right, without that pressure we wouldn't. But that did come with its challenges, because I think, as we said in the session, huge amount of pressure to fix the finances in the short term. Fire sale, sell our land. Let's try and find short-term solutions with the hope that it will solve itself longer term. But if we need a bit of courage to say, let's hold on to that land, we can develop on that. We might not see the savings that will come from that for 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, but let's try and be, courageous with that and hold the line. And that's been a massive help.
So to what extent do you think what you've done in Hastings is transferable to other similar local authorities?
I think it's, and lots of other authorities are already doing that. We are in no way, the idea of acquiring properties and stuff is, absolutely. I think what's interesting is the amount of external funding we've been able to secure. It feels like a recognition from government that this is what will solve the issue here. So why not everywhere else? I think if I was looking at it as another local authority, I'd say, where's my 20 million external funding? Because I'd like to do the same.
Yes.
So I think it is transferable, but only if you can then tap into some of that capital funding on a longer term spend to save argument, as you said.
But one of the points I was trying to make is often local authorities are quite small to deal with all of these home office pressures and the collapse of the rental market. So there's a job for government, which we haven't really mentioned today, but it seems to me that government saying, why don't you try the Hastings approach, or here's a pot of funds to go for, or whatever, stepping into that space would be quite useful.
Absolutely. Just the capacity to be able to deliver an acquisition program, the contribution from my colleagues in legal, from our estates team, all of that, when they've got other, really, really significant business as usual things to be getting on with, is a massive ask. And I do think there is potentially a role for government, also a role for collaboration. How can we share those things across local authority boundaries? Do we all need our own acquisitions program? Do we all need our own legal resource to do that? Is there something that we can look at pooling? Is there resource that we can get from government to help with that? In addition to the capital, also help us spend it and give us the capacity to do that.
Yeah, I think that's something we'd really endorse, actually.